Okay, so for this question 4, we're looking at resources, water resources, food, and the water budget. So again, by now, everybody should have looked at one other question, if not more. So the first look again, we've got 4, 7, 9. Okay, so 4, ecocentric solutions, local scale. So we're looking at things like cutting down on shower times. We're not looking at policies and laws. Those are regulations and those are government. They're not ecocentric solutions, right? They're anthropocentric. Rainwater harvesting can be one. Anyway, you can look at the mark scheme for those. And it is a discussion, so it's not just stating them. And but actually looking at, can they be applied on a local scale, right? We're not going as far as evaluating, just having a wee chat about them. A discussion is a wee chat. Okay, describe and evaluate the role of technocentric solutions in meeting the demand for food. Okay, you guys did a good job with this. So you're talking about things like thinking about technocentric and food. So you've got GMOs, you have like artificial meat. These things are all sort of very relatively new, but we don't have to think about relatively new. We can also think about machinery. So things like having a tractor to plow the field instead of doing it by hand. We can think about the Green Revolution, right? And the invention of artificial fertilizers. That is a technocentric solution. So we can evaluate this very easily. We can describe what happened, but then also the evaluation that, like, yeah, the population has increased. Has that been good for the earth? And food production has increased, but also, things like eutrophication, use of chemicals on food. So going into then each of these and evaluating them will get you an easy 7 marks there. Okay, so now the last one, describe the Earth's water budget and discuss the extent to which water security could be a source of conflict in the future. And so many of you answered this that I thought you guys would all talk about Israel and Palestine. And although some of you mentioned it, you didn't go in as deep as I thought you would about that. So you really need to have explored that and studied that. Because for 9-mark question, you need to leave plenty of time for this as well. You're really looking at some deep answers. You also, many people did not have this section, so make sure you do both. So describe the Earth's water budget. Something like 3% of the Earth's water is fresh water. The rest is locked up in oceans. You've also got like some locked up in glaciers. You did not need to remember the exact numbers, but just that relatively, this is very, very small amount. And then you've also got underwater aquifers, or underground aquifers. So we don't have access to much fresh water. So make sure you're doing both sections of the question. Otherwise, you will definitely lose marks. Okay, let's have a look at this rubric then. So switch over here. Okay, so and basically when I'm looking at this, I'm deciding, first of all, does it belong in here or here or here? Let's have a look at the highest one first of all. They want you to demonstrate that you know about ESS issues and concepts. Can you put this in the form of like models, systems, sustainable development, pollution, consumerism, ecological footprints, climate change? Can you talk about this as somebody who's an environmental scientist, as you are now becoming? And then a wide breadth of knowledge statements effectively linked with each other and to the context of the question. So here the key things are, because here you're demonstrating your knowledge, right? So the wide breadth should be there, but are they well linked together? And do they link to the question? Because there were times where people were writing about things that were quite effective and quite knowledgeable, but they'd forgotten what the question was about, and they were writing on about something else that wasn't relevant, and that's also using up their time. Okay, the next part, ESS terminology. So again, just knowing your words like storages, words to do with the nitrogen cycle, nutrient cycles, any kind of ESS terminology that could be applied to the question. Examples. You need to learn specific examples for different concepts and different case studies, right? Some of you really had some nice stuff about the beta eco village and the irrigation there, and or something from your home, and these things were so solid to read. So that's what you need to have. Okay, where most people did not make it into this band, it was because of this, right? You're exploring this question. You're looking at it from different angles. You are analyzing it as you would in humanities. ESS is a humanities subject as well as a science subject. You need to think analytically. You need to explore the answer. And this is where it's also here, if we go back to here, the examples showing some originality. So I think you do quite a good job of that because you guys are so global and you know a lot of different case studies. But just making sure, it's when you read that answer that's like, wow, yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. And that really makes you want to award it into this band grade here. And then finally, so you've got your analysis, and then you're going to make a judgment or a conclusion. And you're giving the evidence and arguments, probably from your analysis, right? And then you're also, but on the other hand, it could be this. You've got some critical reflection in there, reflecting back on, to what extent you think your judgment is correct or not. Okay? So what distinguishes the different grade bands? Well, if we look here, you show some evidence. I mean, most people are going to fall in here because, of course, they show some evidence of knowledge. Notice it says sound knowledge. Knowledge statements effectively linked to the context of the question. So as long as you hadn't misunderstood the question, you're going to fall in here. You're using your terms correctly. You've used some examples. You have a clear analysis. And you have some judgments, okay? So most people fall in here. If you do all of these things, like if I can tick every single one of those, then you get to the top of the mark band, right? Same here. If you get every single one of these things, you get into here. Now, I am not ticking and saying, so I do put little dots, like I put little dots next to your work like this, to kind of show me, oh yeah, that's quite a good point. That might contribute towards that. But I'm not counting up the marks then and seeing how many there are, because you might make one very eloquent, beautiful point, and that might be, push you up into this area in here, versus a whole bunch of sort of short, unconnected points, right? The point here is that you're writing an essay, a humanities essay, backed up with scientific evidence. Okay, and then if you really didn't know the answer to the question, you're probably ending up in here, where minimal knowledge, fragments, just bits and pieces kind of thrown in that maybe don't connect together. You've got some terminology, but not a whole lot. No examples. So I had a hard time because sometimes you guys had really good examples, but not much else. And so then where do I put you? Okay, so in that case, I might be putting like, okay, you've got some relevant examples, but you had a superficial analysis and you didn't have any conclusion or judgment. So in that case, where am I going to put you? So it will just depend. How good were your examples? If they're really excellent, maybe I put you up here at a 3, right? Let's say that I don't think if you have 2 in here, I probably wouldn't put you up into this mark band. I probably keep you down here and give you the full marks for this mark band. It is subjective to some extent, but to reassure you on that front, when I went through the training, so the way that the training works for these exams is a chief examiner, so somebody is marking the exams, and then you sit and you mark the exams that are sent to you, including this one here. Okay, so this is going out to another examiner, so this is me. I don't know which is the one that this person up here has marked. So I don't know which of my 10 papers, because it happens every 10. There will be one that is a secret seed. Somebody else already marked it, this person who's in charge of all this group of examiners. Okay, so now I mark these. If my mark is off from his by more than, say, 2 marks, then it will kick me out and I will have to try another set. And if that happens again, I will get kicked out of the marking completely and I won't be able to mark the papers anymore. So, but in this way, then I learn what it is that this examiner up here is learning, and this person here is actually doing the same thing with an even more senior examiner, who is sending these out to the assistant examiners, who is sending it out to the regular examiners. Okay, so these days I'm just down here as a regular examiner, and I pass the moderations, all the time. So although it's subjective, we are fairly well trained in being able to pick out where it is that you exist with this. And I guess my role is to help you understand how you can place yourself in one of these accurately. And I will do my best to help you with that.